Yeah, those of you may remember there was a treaty a while back that said that Americans would not have to pay taxes on their Social Security. So what is going on with that now?
That's correct. It's still intact. You're exempt both in America and in Israel on your American Social Security benefits.
No, I got something from the IRS from America. I have to fill out the numbers, and if the amount goes over this certain amount?
No, it's totally exempt. You have to put in 8833 in with your tax return. It's totally exempt.
Okay, so bring that to your accountant. If you got a letter, maybe they have something wrong with you.
To speak to somebody in the Treasury here. There's, unfortunately, what you said, there's no totalization agreement between America and Israel. So if I have somebody that's self-employed, it's an atzmai that works here in Israel, they get hit both by Israeli Pituitli, American Social Security. That's correct. Unfortunately, it's a terrible result. Would you need to lobby? So,
it is double taxation?
correct. But it's unfortunately it's not taxation. It's Social Security. You need to talk. What's that?
It's a salary.
Correct. Correct. But if you're self-employed, you don't have a choice. Yeah.
But
You
then you don't have a salary either.
need to speak to somebody in the Treasury here. Try to negotiate an agreement. So if you have a rental property in Israel, one of the biggest things that I get from people is they say, well, in Israel, if I get roughly each year changes, 4,000, it's under 4,900 shekels a month, it's exempt. In Israel, isn't it exempt in America? It's taxable from the first penny. And you have to put that income on your American tax return. Huge, huge misconception among people. Since it's exempt in one country, it's exempt in the second country.
Same with municipal bond interest.
Well, that's actually going the opposite way.
So say,
One of the things that Doug said to me is misconceptions. For example, let's say I have an American municipal bond, tax exempt in America, taxable in Israel. I'll give you a couple more examples. Someone gets severance pay, pitzuim. Most of it is exempt in Israel, taxable in America. You take out from your Kupa Gimel, your Keren Hashtalmud, tax-free in Israel, taxable in America.
So you're saying municipal bonds are taxable in Israel?
Absolutely.
Right.
As long as you're not in your
That's what I thought, yeah.
you're in exemption period in Israel, depending on when you became a
And that's
resident.
what's reported with FBAR?
No.
No?
your municipal bonds are held in your brokerage account in America,
Right.
along with your stocks and your corporate bonds and your mutual funds and anything else. The thing that I've personally found is that when people make aliyah, or they've been here a long time, or they get an inheritance of municipal bonds, is one of the first things we do is we sell the municipal bonds and we buy corporate bonds, because the municipal bonds tend to pay a lower interest rate, and anyway it's taxable in Israel. So we may as well buy something that's got a higher interest rate, because in any way it's taxable.
But suppose you have them already and the termination is years down the road.
You can sell them. Now, there's a
At a loss.
misconception, but not necessarily.
Well,
No, I mean, you have to look at the bonds.
yeah, well,
Yes.
If you just made Aliyah, how long is the exemption period
For Israel,
from taxes?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years on your foreign source income, interest, dividends, capital gains, rental, royalties. Now, one big misconception people think is you also have a 10-year exemption on wages. That's true if you actually go on a plane and earn all the income abroad. If you're actually sitting here, let's say I worked for IBM, I come here and I work for IBM, get my W-2, that income is not exempt. There are guys out there that'll tell you that it is exempt. I think it's totally fraudulent.
What if you're working remotely?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're working remotely, it's taxable here.
Yeah?
There are tax professionals that'll tell you it's exempt. You ask somebody from the Israeli Tax Authority what their position is, they'll tell you it's 100%
So you might
taxable.
wind up paying in America and here.
No, the first way will be to Israel, and you'll get a credit on your American return.
And with rentals, that's included? If you-
Included in the 10 years? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Rental income, you put on your 1040. The off-buyer is your foreign accounts. So that's brokerage accounts, bank accounts, retirement accounts, things of those natures.
And in Israel, if you sell a property, you're allowed, on real estate, you're allowed to sell every 4 years without paying a tax.
Correct.
Does that count in America?
Nope. In America, you're allowed an exemption on your house of up to $250,000 if you file married filing separate, married, or I'm sorry, head of household or single, or $500,000 if you're married filing jointly. But it has to be your primary household, and you have to have lived there the last 5 years. If it's a rental property, it does not qualify for that exemption. It is the million-dollar question. Because when I started out, I said, people say, how is America ever going to find me?
No, the bank knows them.
I understand that, so you're on the hook. America knows that it has a huge problem on its hands. That there's a lot of Americans that haven't filed. The Canadian Prime Minister actually chastised the American ambassador to Canada for this very thing, because he's worried he has all these Canadians that are also Americans that have never ever filed. So last June, America said, I'm going to come out with a procedure on how to deal with this and how to file back returns. And in September, they actually came out with the rules for that procedure. What you do is you file 3 years of back American tax returns and 6 years of back FBARs, the foreign bank accounts.
You mean whatever I have here?
Yes, 6 years of your foreign bank accounts again, and 3 years of tax returns.
No, well, if I don't have any in America, then it's not.
Your Americans are taxable on the worldwide income. So it's
So
every...
double taxation is what you're talking about.
Absolutely not. You get a credit for whatever tax you paid in Israel on your American tax return. There's absolutely no double taxation.
Just on Social Security.
Yes,
That's not, unfortunately, that's not what they define as a tax. But you're right, it's you're getting it double, correct? Okay.
So what
So
happens?
you would get the same credit on your Israeli return, because they're withholding taxes at source on your American mutual
But
fund.
is Israel going to charge me on the taxes that I have paid to these various places? I don't even know where they...
You'll get a credit for it. You'll pay your Israeli tax of 25% less whatever taxes you had withheld at source, and also whatever American taxes you...
What are they
you know.
taxing in Israel?
What are they taxing?
Anything they can find.
Yeah, I mean, if we have no employment here,
We're retired.
You're taxed on your worldwide income.
the American income.
it's your investment.
And anything you have that is income. It used to be before 2003, Israel taxed you on what you earned here. From 2003, it taxes you on a worldwide basis.
So we're exempt.
If you get an inheritance, not from Israel, does that have to be reported?
If you inherit money, the inheritance most likely not, let's say you inherited from America, but the income on the assets that you get, you have to report both to America and then to Israel, absolutely.
So you had your hand up?
Yeah, Karen Ishtalmud, I wanted to know about the SDR. You
Yeah,
have to
we put
report it just at like another bank account?
Yes, absolutely.
Those of us who have children here who are United States citizens but have never lived in America, were born here, they still have to file.
Yeah,
And if they're self-employed, then they have to pay Social Security
correct.
in the States. And if they don't file, they will be found, in your experience?
Look, everything's new. Starting for, everything's new from 2013.
That's
Look
about a
for,
certain age.
try to find what's
Yeah.
gonna be.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. For second generation,
Yeah.
very difficult, because you tell them they're gonna have to file and they go.
They don't even speak English.
Some of them don't speak English, some of them feel absolutely no connection to America.
Right.
And to pay Social Security, which may not exist by the time that they
Correct.
are...
The
ready to
problem,
collect.
the problem that they have is, let's say tomorrow they open up a bank account, they're gonna be asked if they're an American citizen. They have two choices. One, to tell the truth, and then they're their information's getting reported to the IRS, or two, they're gonna have to lie. And that's even a worse, I think, a worse scenario. And then especially if they have a two.zoot that says they were born in America, and they try to lie, that's explosive.
So I would have to say no on that. People talk about the moral obligation of the government.
Take that to the
Oh yeah,
bank.
you had a question.
I never asked my daughters who married Israelis, and I made them American citizens when they were like 2 years old, my two daughters. But I never asked them if they had their own bank account. But I think they have a bank account with the husband. So with the husband, how do they file something?
They
can
file
hardly read English. They can hardly read English, my two daughters.
I understand.
They speak English, but they can't. So what form do they fill out?
They fill out a 1040 if they have income. How do I just do it?
No, but...
If they have the bank accounts, they have to fill out the FBAR form, which is TD 90-221.
So who do they go to fill that out? An accountant? They have to go...
They can do it themselves if they're comfortable with it, or otherwise, yeah, accountant.
And if they don't fill anything out for this year?
The problem is we have FATCA working. The question is, will America find more, won't they? But they have an obligation to
Yes,
fill
we
out.
find them, their income is low.
They just took it.
It's a good question. No one knows the answer, and if anybody tells you they know 100% what America's going to do,
Here in the
they're
back.
trying to sell snake oil.
in Israel are taxable in the state.
When you take it
Are
out,
bituach min alim and karen pensia taxable in Israel?
what he's asking.
Taxable in America, did you mean?
In America.
Yes. Absolutely.
What happens if the children renounce their citizenship in America?
So that's a possibility. They have to, if they were to go into the consulate, they have to testify that they've been in compliance at least 5 years back. And then there's certain circumstances, there's an exit tax. Generally, it's for people that have over $2 million of assets. But before you renounce, you should see a tax attorney. Because there's implications of going forward. It's a possibility. A lot of people are starting to think about it seriously. Yep.
Back to real estate, I just want to understand, in Israel, you get taxed higher than in America.
Not in real estate.
No, wait a minute. As a rule, you get taxed quite a bit higher than in America.
Correct.
One of the few benefits in Israel is that if you have real estate, they let you have this nice thing of that you don't have to pay taxes on the rent unless it's over $4,900.
Right.
And if you sell it, it's not more than once in 4 years.
Correct.
Okay, so now America comes around and says, no. So it's also again like what's the cheapest.
It's not double tax. It's not double
But
tax.
it's like you get the minus of Israel and you get the minus of America. It's not fair.
Two minuses is a plus.
They don't care. It's not reasonable either.
Each tax system looks at things differently. Israel looks at something like this, and America looks at something like
They're
this.
superimposing America on Israel, and Israel's already pretty serious to begin with.
I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, the two of them are not meshing together, and they're not trying to think. They're saying, this is why.
Together? Can somebody?
You would have to get the American Congress and the Israeli Knesset to get together and in a parliamentary, try to,
Yeah, but I mean, it's
good luck.
ridiculous because you've got serious Israeli taxes, and
Yeah,
you're
you're right.
superimposing American.
You're right.
That has a totally different system. But
Unfortunately,
you don't gain the benefits of America. You just lost.
unfortunately, I see a lot of people that'll come into my office and they'll say, yeah, my American return, I put all my American income. My Israeli return, I put all my Israeli income. The twain never meets. Or they see that on the American return, they'll put some of their Israeli income, but the rental income, not interested in putting it. Israel doesn't tax you. I'm not going to say it's a problem.
No, it's not.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the good part is Israel has an option that you can pay a 10% on your gross rents. So that's a very viable option.
That's if it's above a certain amount.
No, you could pay it even if you have 4,000 shekels of rental. I'm not saying people will do this, but you could do it. You get a tax credit and
then you don't have to pay
on your
for it.
American tax return. It's a possibility. But people that definitely have more over that amount, I definitely have them pay the 10%, and then they get a credit on the American return for the 10% they paid.
Let's do one more question in the back, and then we'll stay if anyone has other things to discuss. Yes?
God forbid, looking to the future, estate taxes. If you have money in America, what happens if you, God forbid, die, and your children, you want them to, is there an estate tax that they will have to pay an estate tax on any investments that you have in America?
As being an American citizen?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an estate tax, but you have an exemption right now of about $5 million.
Right.
And if you're it's actually indexed, so it's roughly about $5,200,000 and some thousand dollars. But if you have two spouses, then it's combined in 10.
Then you have state taxes. State estate taxes are larger than federal estate taxes. But whatever state the inheritance is gained.
But the one thing that you should keep in your mind is Israel is starting to talk about an estate tax. They got rid of it years and years ago, and now they're going, we have to think of new ways to raise revenue, and that's one of the things that constantly is being talked about.
Well, just don't die and that'll solve the problem. All right, listen, thank you all very much. Please, I think there's one copy left of Building Wealth in Israel. I saw 2 people sneaking and buying it. You can get it for 50 shekels. That'll go to the AACI. Or call Yoram during the week and you can still get that price. Please download a copy of the book for free until the end of the month. If you have any questions, Ron and I will be here. Thank you very much.